All right, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Webinar Wednesday. I'll give everybody a few seconds to get into the room and get all settled in. We are thrilled that you're joining us today. I am Steve Dotto, and as those of you who are in your first webinar with us, let me fill you in on what's going to happen. We do a weekly live webinar here at the dottotech channel. And let me just bring my my cohorts in. We've got April and we've got Jen who are going to be helping me out with the webinar as per usual. For those of you who are in your first webinar with us, we're using a tool called Webinar Jam, which now uses YouTube Live for the broadcast mechanism. But down the right-hand side, I can see you're already all jumping into the chat and saying hello to us. And I see that you're coming in from all over. We've got David from Las Vegas, and we've got Friar Wade from Florida. How you doing, Friar Wade?
Oh, Friar.
Super active on social. We've got Richard from Southampton, UK. I'm on my way to the UK in less than a month, off to London and Cambridge for a family wedding. Should be fun. We've got Terry here. We've got Susan from Missouri. Lots of people coming in. Andrew from Vancouver. So how's everybody doing today? Are you two ladies ready for this?
I am. I'm so excited. WordPress and social marketing. Oh.
WordPress and social marketing. I'm kind of intimidated by today's topic, even though I'm the one that's presenting the topic. But it's I'm self-taught in WordPress. So I'm sure that I do some things wrong. And I'm sure that there are going to be some people that are going to go, why do you do it that way, Steve? There's better ways to do it. So we'll be looking forward to hearing that back from you. To give you an idea, in a few moments here, we'll start. I've pre-recorded, as per usual, the demo part of today's webinar. While that's going on, we will be in chat answering your questions. As soon as the pre-record is done, we will jump out of the chat part. We'll come back live, answer your questions. At that point there, we're going to try and do last week we tried and failed. We're going to try and simulcast this to Facebook Live, and Jen's going to manage the Facebook Live feed. I've got Wirecast all set up here right beside me, and you'll see me lean over occasionally to check and to implement the Wirecast installation. We'll see if it works. That's kind of the voyage of discovery that we're on. Once the webinar is done, you will get an email within about an hour with a replay link. That replay link is good for 48 hours. So you have 48 hours. If you have to jump out for any reason, you will be able to you'll be able to view it. Any of you, I see a few of you are having a little bit of technical difficulty. Of course, if you're having technical difficulty, this is rather ridiculous for me to be telling you because you can't hear. But if you do happen to have something go wrong, your treatments should be first and foremost refresh your browser. If that doesn't work, exit and re-enter your browser, like quit and then re-enter and enter the link again. If that doesn't work, try a different browser. If that doesn't work, wait for the replay. Or try a different device, but that's the sequence that we will be going through. Am I missing anything? Did I forget to mention anything?
I don't think so.
We have a poll. April, could you fire?
I can.
Fire up the poll. Sit in the world of WordPress. We're going to be talking WordPress. Now, WordPress, of course, is the infrastructure that drives so many of the world's websites. Not all, but many of the world's websites. It's open source, and it's one that I use, and it's one that we're going to be talking about using. So I'm just wondering, how many of you are just starting in WordPress? How many use it, but you get lost? A lot. How many of you have a site and it's going pretty well? And how many of you are WordPress ninjas who are going to be judging everything I say quite harshly as we go along today? So,
I like your title of the poll. How WordPressy are you?
How WordPressy are you? Are you WordPressy or not? So 50% of you are just getting started. 12% are using it, but mostly lost. That's a good place to be. 30% of you have it, and it's going well. So we'll be looking forward to your feedback, and I'm sure you guys will be able to jump in and chat and help out some of the newbies as they are going along. And 6% of you are WordPress ninjas. Consider yourself WordPress ninjas, and are here for no other reason than to judge. And I appreciate that. That's a good thing. That's
the only way we learn.
Yes. That is how we learn. Hey, by the way, just before we go on, I wanted to say we hit a milestone. Though we will be talking a little bit about Patreon, our community that supports these Webinar Wednesdays and helps us and facilitates it. We hit 500 patrons today. So those of you on the call who are our patrons and supporting us in Patreon, big thanks. A big hug going out to you all, because that's It's actually kind of humbling that many people believe in what we produce here and deliver here on dottotech, and are willing to support our whole team. So we thank you. We send you our earnest thanks for that. So I think it's time for us to. I think we probably got to. Let's end the poll and see. We are 48% of the people are just starting at WordPress, so you're in the right place. The video. I'm going to talk a little bit about the basics of WordPress, how it structures. The 17% that are lost. I hope that we will guide you a little bit. And the ones that already know WordPress a little bit, maybe you'll get some new ideas and some new positioning on how to do things. And if not, I hope that you'll contribute and give back some of your wisdom and sage knowledge in the chat to those who are just starting out. So I am going to load our video up here. WordPress demo. Here it is. I pre-recorded this. I recorded this on Monday. Monday was a holiday here in British Columbia. It was family day. So, of course, I spent it recording a WordPress demo. This is going to be 27 minutes long. We will be, while it's on, I'll be active in chat with the ladies, and we will be back to talk to you all here in 27 minutes live. All right, WordPress. Now, just to be clear, there are two versions of WordPress, or two kind of flavors of WordPress. We are talking about fully hosted or self-hosted WordPress sites. In other words, WordPress has the ability for, WordPress has a feature where you can sign up for WordPress and just keep a simple blog. They will do all the hosting, and you can kind of decide how your blog looks, but you don't have control over the entire WordPress environment. It's a blogging service. We are talking about where you actually pay for a server yourself, set up your own WordPress install, that you have total control over the look and all of the aspects of WordPress. We are talking about that level of control and that type of site, a self-hosted WordPress site. And we're talking about how you're going to use that in the social marketing world, how it fits for you and I in the social and content marketing world, what the site needs to do. So in this part of the demo today, we're going to talk about what WordPress is and how it looks. We're going to go into a demo, take a look at the exact interface of WordPress and how you structure it and how you use it. We're going to talk about what features your WordPress site should have or can have to support our social business. And we're going to talk about some of the add-on tools, some of the different things that extend the functionality of WordPress to address the needs that you and I have. So let's begin with just a discussion of what WordPress is itself. As I said, it's both a blogging platform, which is kind of general for everybody, and then there's the hosted services where we host them ourselves. The terms that we're going to use primarily talk about the type of content within WordPress are our blogs, which is our content creation, our content strategy. In my case, it's videos, so it's actually vlogs, not blogs. It could be podcasts, any of your serial content that you create that helps build your brand. And then we also have a CMS aspect of it, which blogging is part of, but it's all of the other rich content that you have, your About Me page, any sales pages or product pages you have, all of the other content that you have that you want to share in WordPress. That's what WordPress manages it as a content management system. And that would be the best way to describe it. It's a CMS, which is a type of a database where it manages all of your content. Now, there are other platforms that will do what WordPress does for us. You've got other open source platforms like Joomla and Drupal. My very first website ever was in Drupal. And then you've got some services that remove a lot of the granular control, but give you access and basically create a wrapper over top of a website. And those are like Squarespace and Wix, where they're kind of pre-built, easier to address. Certainly a good idea for smaller ventures, ones that maybe aren't as concerned with social marketing, but just need a website that they can easily maintain and manage that will serve their needs. We're not going to be looking at those today, but they are an option. I don't think that they're a particularly good option for you and for I, because we want a lot more control, especially once we get into the whole search environment and all of that. But they are options for you for starting out if you choose to. So what should your website do for you? If we're going to be talking about it, the tools, what do we need? Well, obviously it has to be our blog and information about our business. So it's got to host our landing pages and opt-in pages, any place people come and decide to engage with us, whether it's signing up for a webinar or downloading a free offer, some way of enrolling and signing up for our newsletter. It does all of those things. It also has to host all of our sales pages if we're actually selling a product of some sort, or a contact form, which leads to the sale. The WordPress site has to do all of that. For many cases, it's going to provide e-commerce. Selling digital products, it's a good chance that we're going to look for it to actually manage the entire transaction and carry it through and actually collect money and then distribute the product. It's going to act as a community hub, a place that people come to look for you. But most importantly, from that perspective, 24/7, always it's available to speak for you to anybody who's interested in your content. It's your home that's always open. And in this ADHD world that we live in, where we expect instant gratification, the richer and the more complete your website is, the more satisfied your customers are going to be coming to it. Now, here's something to think about as you design your website. People think because the internet is so vast that there's this kind of lack of intimacy in a website, because it can be viewed by hundreds or thousands or millions of people, that it's kind of just this big public thing. But in fact, there's tremendous intimacy in the connection when a customer comes to your site, because they are actually physically clicking and moving into your content. They're visiting you in real time. So from their perspective, it's quite an intimate moment. There's a lot of touch and feel, even though you don't know that it's happening. And often they're going to be looking at you on their smartphone. So you have to make sure that your site is going to be mobile friendly. We call them responsive sites, so that they automatically reformat and allow to be viewed on a smartphone. So if we think about the level of personal interaction, the fact that they're even holding your site in their hand, it just adds an extra layer of intimacy to that connection. So you want to pour as much of what you are all about and as much of what your services offer into that website as you possibly can. You're looking for lots of functionality within your website. So what are the top 5 things that I look for in a website, or that I consider to be most important? Well, obviously, number 1 is hosting my content, my vlog. In my case, it could be your blog, your podcast, hosting your serial content that you keep publishing. Next is providing the background information about what you do and who you are. So for me, it's like my speaking page, so people can understand if they want to book me as a talk, the ability to opt in on our newsletter, those sorts of things are next. Really important is the fact they are discovery engines. I credit much of the success of our brand to how well we've ranked in YouTube search. Google search is even more important than YouTube search, even more difficult to rank in, far more difficult to rank in than YouTube search. But if you do manage to rank, if your content is vital and valuable, and Google decides that it's something that should come up to the top of the search rankings, that means that it's going to drive a lot of traffic to your site, and that is where opportunity finds you. So setting up your website so that it is SEO friendly, search engine optimization, so that it's friendly to Google and to the other search engines, is a primary thing that we need to set up within our site. Paying attention to how well we rank in search, because if we can be discovered in search, that is the path to great success. For me, I look at converting visitors into subscribers to our newsletter as the primary, kind of the main thing that I look my website to do at the end of the day. You're here because you've signed up for our newsletter and you've signed up for one of our webinars. That came probably through some sort of a form at some point. It could have been at our website. That is my primary goal with using the website, is building my community that way. So converting visitors into community members, absolutely one of the top 5 things as far as I'm concerned within my WordPress site. And the 5th thing is related. That's tracking visitors. Now, when you track what people do, there's several benefits that come. The first benefit is you get to know how they interact with your content, so it can make you a better content creator. Knowing how long people are reading your posts, when they're leaving, which posts they're following on to, what their habits are on your site, gives you a tremendous amount of feedback into what you should be doing as a content creator. But additionally, people who come to your site, if you can identify who they are for paid traffic later on in the process. For example, if you've come to my website and I'm about to do a deliver a new course on a topic that you might have read a post on, even if you haven't signed up for my newsletter. The fact that I can drop a pixel on you, a Facebook tracking pixel, and I can then later on market to you, send some ads into your newsfeed about a related webinar that you might be interested in. This allows me to then speak to a warm audience with my paid traffic as opposed to a cold audience. The fact you visited my site identifies the fact that you may be interested in my content. That's another big value in a way that many people use their websites to increase the value of their paid traffic when they finally spend some money in the marketing. So those are the top 5 aspects that I look for. Let's spend a second and talk about the actual structure of what WordPress is and how it fits. So it all starts with a hosting service. That's a web online service that you have to pay for. Now you can have your own dedicated machine or you can share a machine, but within that service, a WordPress install happens. So they basically install WordPress. That's the content management system. That's basically a database that is going to then host all of your content. Your content is going to be composed of all of your images, but primarily it's going to be structured in pages and posts. Pages are kind of big form things that are kind of single purpose, and posts are your ongoing content. So for example, on my site, a page would be my speaking page where it's just all of the information about how you book me for a talk and what I talk about. Posts are my ongoing serial content. For example, the 1 minute tech tip. That's a series of posts. We publish that several times a week. So that's ongoing content. That's all managed within the content system within WordPress. And all that is, as I say, is some big ass database that sits there and says, this is a post on this topic. So it's in this category. This is a page and it's supposed to live here. On top of that, we get a theme. And there are thousands of themes. Themes are the graphical view of the website, and themes have to be responsive so that they can resolve properly in mobile. They have to look like you in a form that makes you happy, that reflects your brand, and they have to have a structure to allow people to get to the sort of content that they want to get to when they visit your site. So let's jump over to my site just for a moment, and here is my website. And my website is designed to primarily support my videos and to introduce people to our content. As I say, ultimately I want to convert you into a subscriber to my newsletter, but we'll talk about that stuff in a moment. But here we see my featured videos prominently on my website. So we have our basic, our main featured videos, our Ask dottotech series, our 1 minute tech tips, and this is more of our basic videos. So when you come and visit my page, you see my most current videos available right off the top. Now, each of these are actually a blog post or a vlog. If I click on this one here, which is the latest one that we published, we see here we've got, first of all, we've got some social proof. We have the video that's running. Oh, look at that. Because it doesn't know that I'm a subscriber, because I'm actually in an anonymous browser right now. It doesn't know that I'm a subscriber to the newsletter. It says, Steve, do you want to sign up for my Evernote Quick Start Guide? So this is a way of me now attracting you to hopefully sign up for our newsletter in one form or another. So I'm just going to X out of that. We'll talk about the tool that facilitates that in a moment. But as we scroll down, we see we have a blog post, and that is the main content of the post. So looking at it here, we see the graphic representation of what my theme has designed, the overall look of my website. Now, if I decide that I want to change the overall look, I just have to change the theme. The content remains the same. I don't have to re-import all of the different posts and the pages. Those will come across in the new theme, and then we'll design the new theme to resolve and look the way we want. So it's quite easy, well, relatively easy. It still takes quite a bit of time, and it's fraught with little challenges, to be honest. But we don't have to re-import all of the content into a whole new site. All of this bottom end stuff stays the same. The content, the pages, the posts, the WordPress install, the hosting, that all stays the same. We can just change the theme to change dramatically how our website looks and acts to others, with the content remaining the same. So that is the structure of WordPress. Let's take a look at the same site, my WordPress site, from a administrative point of view. We've just looked at it as a visitor would see it. This is the exact same site, but from the back end. This is my WordPress back end. And down the left-hand side here, you see the dashboard. This allows us to control all of the different aspects of WordPress. Out here in the center, we see basically just reports of the overall health of our site and any notifications that we need. I've got a little tracking tool here that tracks how much traffic is to the site, so I can quickly see how the site is performing. But the real engine room is these tools here down the left-hand side. Now, depending on your WordPress install, you will have some, but not all, of the features that I have installed here, because I have also installed different plugins. Plugins allow you to extend the functionality of WordPress, and I'll identify a couple of plugins and why I'm using them as we go along. But the main structure that you're concerned about are going to be your pages and posts and your overall theme. So you see here that I've got the Themify Ultra theme installed. This is that graphics wrapper that sits over top of the content management system. There's a variety of different themes that you can purchase, and they're basically templates that you then optimize in order to give you the look and feel that you want within your site. If you ever decide to change it, you change, and you can change to a different theme company if you want even, but you can change the theme and you can refresh your site using this. A key to always look for as you're designing your site is make sure that you're installing a responsive theme. A responsive theme will automatically reformat all of the content to allow for tablet and for smartphone use. Absolutely essential in this world today. Now, I'm not going to have time to train you on using WordPress right now, but I'm going to give you kind of a 30,000-foot overview on some of these main features. So the posts, obviously, remember what I said about the posts, is the posts are our serial content that we deliver. In my case, my featured videos, my 1-minute tech tips, my Ask dottotech, that's all of my featured content, that's serial that we keep changing. Now, we organize that through something called categories. And when we look at the roster of posts that we have, some published, some not published, we can see down here that they're defined by the category, which is the 1-minute tech tip or the Ask dottotech. And depending on what category they're put in, it means that they are going to, within the content management system, then be delivered within the framework that category is designed for. I know that sounds a little bit confusing, but if we take a look at it here on my website, these are Dotto's demos. Those are our featured posts. Right here and here are the first and second, the most current and the second most current dottotech, Dotto's demos, my main demonstrations. Here's my most current Ask dottotech, and here's my most current 1-minute tech tip. They're all structured this way so that they appear on the homepage as they get published. If we want to view them in a different way, we can go to our different pages, the page views, and we can take a look at all of the Dotto's demos. So these are all of our featured videos, and they're all laid out here within this page. So people can go and they can gain access to only the category Dotto's demos, which are our featured videos. So this structure that we create through categories is what allows us to then change the overall look of the website if we decide some point in the future and have all of the content remain the same, because these categories, the post types, are all going to stay the same. Now, pages are a little bit different. Pages are more encapsulated content that's not going to change over time. So things like your About Me page, in my case, maybe my speaking page, this is content which remains the same, that I design and lay out to stay the same, and is not going to need a lot of changing. And if I do need to update it, I will go in and physically edit the page that it's on itself. Now, in my particular case, I also include a form here for people to reach out if they're interested in having me give a talk. So you can see some of the functionality of the site there. So posts, ongoing content that you're constantly adding to your blog type information. Pages, static information, which isn't going to change. That's the architecture of WordPress. And that all sits within, it allows you to have these categories that allow you to define the content a little more granularly. Now, within each page, though, and within each post, you can then have some different tools that allow you to present that information in slightly more rich or slightly more interactive ways. And that's where the plugins start to come in. So on our site, we've got a plugin called Social Warfare. And what Social Warfare does, if we go back into our site, let me just go back to my page here, and let's just click on this latest video that we had, and there'll probably be a new one in today because I'm recording this on Monday. We'll post a new one on Tuesday. But as we open this page, we see right here at the top we have social proof. This is how this post is being shared in social media. This tool here, this comes from the Social Warfare plugin that I've installed that puts this little banner within all of our posts and tracks and allows people to share the content to different social platforms. So if I was a visitor and I wanted to tweet this out, if I click on this, it then creates a tweet that I can tweet out, and we've even populated exactly what that tweet says for you. Do you see how this facilitates sharing? This is the tool called Social Warfare. This is what it looks like within the post. Within our WordPress site, let's take a look at how it looks. And let's go to that same post, which is here. So when we open this post, we are brought into the editor that allows us to compose the post, to do all of the different SEO, for example, placing in the correct category, adding tags so that it's available in search. The actual post itself is created using the themes editor, which we see down here. And this is kind of a drag and drop editor that allows you to kind of create blocks where we've got the text of the post as well as where we've placed the video. But this is where we see Social Warfare, the tool that I just showed you the results of in the post. Now here we've got the sharing information that's going to be shared in different social sites. So regardless if this is Facebook or Twitter, all of those different social sites, if you're sharing posts, look for content called Open Graph information. Now that is this graphic here, which is a different one than the featured image that I want on my WordPress site, but that's what will be shared if this is shared in Twitter or Facebook. This is the social media title, and here's the tweet that we created, a custom tweet that we wrote to make it easy for other people to share our content to their community. All of this happens with this thing called a plugin. In this case here, this one is called Social Warfare. Now there's a huge variety of different plugins that will do a whole bunch of different things for you. I have plugins that will allow me, that control the pop-ups, the opt-in pop-ups that we have, and we'll include a list of all of the plugins that I have installed on my website in the follow-up documentation that we send out after this webinar. But I've got opt-in monster, which allows me to control my pop-ups. I've got another tool called Pretty Link, which allows me to name pages on my website very easily. In other words, if I have a webinar on screencasting, I can have a page called dottotech.com/screencasting, and that could be my opt-in page that will allow people to sign up for that newsletter or for that webinar. So that's the additional plugins that we've included. The bottom line with the plugins is they expand the functionality. They make WordPress that much more efficient as far as what tasks we want it to perform. And when WordPress doesn't natively have the ability to do something for us, using these plugins allows us to then expand what WordPress can do. In this particular case, sharing. Let me just show you how cool this is, because what will happen here is, let me just jump over back into the blog post that we just saw. I'm just going to grab the page from that blog post, or grab the URL. This is the actual URL that the blog post is. Let me show you how that social graph information resolves. Let's go into Facebook and watch what happens when somebody just takes the URL from that page and they post it here in a blog post. As soon as that URL goes into the blog post, right there, what happens is Facebook looks for that open graph information that we've determined within Social Warfare, and it pulls the proper graphic, it pulls the proper title, it pulls the proper description, all just from the URL because we've configured it using Social Warfare. Isn't that cool? This is the kind of the maturing of your website when you use tools like this that control not just how your website is viewed by people browsing, but how social networks see your website as well. Before I leave the plugins, let me just reemphasize. We've got Pretty Link, which has the logical naming, which is a great free tool. You can buy the premium version, but the free one does a great job. Social Warfare, which I pay for, that does all of my social sharing. Opt-in Monster, which creates the pop-ups that encourage people to subscribe to your newsletter. Yes, they are irritating. but they also work. Actually, I'll show you how they work in just a moment. And I also use a tool called Yoast SEO, which basically evaluates how well I'm performing as far as search goes, tells us what we should be adding, the information that we should be adding to our pages and posts, and then it kind of ranks us as we're going along, reminding us what we should have and what we don't have within our, as far as search engine goes. But I wanted to touch before we leave all of these plugins, kind of one other aspect of my WordPress site. One of the things that I identified is so important is the fact that we are looking for people to sign up for our newsletter. So within the WordPress site, let's go back into WordPress and show it to you here for a moment. Within WordPress, we have this tool right here called, there's the controls for social warfare. Here's the controls for something called Opt-in Monster. Opt-in Monster creates different pop-ups and different opt-in forms, and you can see that I've installed just a few of them here within my site. If we take a look at Opt-in Monster, where we actually get all of our reporting back from how well it's performing, is within their website, not necessarily within our WordPress install. But we see here, let me just refresh the stats to make sure they're most current. We see here how Opt-in Monster, those irritating pop-ups, have worked for me for the past 30 days. And on my main homepage, there's been 1,700 unique visits. There's 163 people, or just about 10% of people, have signed up for our newsletter in the last month from the Opt-in Monster page. I've got another page that we direct people directly from YouTube. We've had 255 people click on the link within YouTube, which takes them to a page, and just over half of those people actually sign up for our newsletter. So those two combined account for nearly 300 new people on our mail list this month, just from our website, just by using this one tool, making sure that we ask people to opt in on our newsletter. So as you can see, it does work, and that makes a difference. Growing by 300 interested people, our mail list each and every month, I think that is well worth the effort of setting all of the infrastructure in place within WordPress to make that all happen. All right, so that's the plugin story. Before we finish talking about our website, the features that are built into our website, we do have to talk about adding a Facebook tracking pixel. Now, Facebook, when you're in Facebook and you're setting up your ads within Facebook, you can create something called a Facebook tracking pixel, which is a piece of code which goes into your website's header or footer, which means that it's just basically sitting there. It's invisible to everybody, but when people visit your site, this Facebook pixel fires, and if they have Facebook open on their computer, it basically just identifies that this person visited your website for a period of time. And then when you're creating your Facebook ads somewhere down the line, you can then say, I want to send this ad to everybody who's visited my webpage. It's called a Facebook custom audience. And that way there you can send ads within the newsfeed to people who are already know who you are because they visited your page. It's called sending your traffic to warm traffic as opposed to cold traffic, people who've never heard of you. And you're going to have a much higher conversion rate of getting them engaged in signing up for your webinar or your free training or your tutorial or whatever it is that you're inviting people to do. So adding a Facebook tracking pixel is a crucial part, I think, of building your website out and making it efficient. And while we're on that topic, setting up your Google Analytics properly is an area that I'm not going to spend any time talking to you about other than to emphasize how important it is. Google Analytics is still an area that I'm learning to use. I am not by any means an expert in Google Analytics, but I'm hoping by the end of this year I've got a much better picture on it. It's what I'm studying and learning about right now. But being able to track exactly what people, how they perform on your site and what's happening with your site, I believe is kind of the next stage in evolution. Just what I've shown you as far as creating a website, creating the content on your website, controlling and understanding how people are interacting with your website, adding functionality to your website that allow people to engage with you, to sign up for your newsletter, to track you, and creating the structure so that you can keep populating your website. That's a great starting point. I think that's beginner WordPress. Google Analytics will say is intermediate WordPress, and that's going to be for another time for us to discuss. But I think we've covered enough right now that we can probably dive in and start handling questions right about now. And I am back. That was fun.
Oh, that's
I loved the interaction in the group. So many good questions. Thank you, Larry, and others who were answering all the questions that are beyond me. I'm gonna make one admission right now. I've got a web guy, Dave, who whenever there's these things come up, like any issues around security or privacy or anything, he's part of the dottotech team, a quiet member of the dottotech team. And I called Dave up and said, Dave, I need some help on the website. And so he's my go-to guy. So I think we all need a web guy. We all need a WordPress guy. That's your husband, isn't it, April?
It is. Yes, it is. Thanks.
Yeah. See,
Although
we all need April's husband.
He's fired me for tech support. He doesn't do my tech support.
He's fired you? Okay, there we go. Okay, listen, before we go on, I want to give everybody an update of what's coming up, and then we're going to jump into the questions. And in a few minutes, I'm going to launch the Facebook Live. So, Jen, are you all ready? Are you psyched?
Yes, I'm ready.
Before I do that, sorry?
I said we're going to have some great engagement today.
Okay, I'm sure we are. Okay, before we do that, though, I am going to jump over and just screen share just for a moment, and I'm going to finish in on what's happening and what's coming up before we get into questions next week on Webinar Wednesday. So a couple of points. Remember this replay here that's of this video, it expires after 48 hours. So the way that we work on Webinar Wednesdays is we deliver these webinars free. They aren't a big sales pitch. There's no product. There's no courses that we're selling at the end. It's just they're just training and tutorials for our community. But we only keep the replay up for 48 hours. And then after that, people, they're designed for our supporters on Patreon to have access to, so they become part of the dottotech archives. Now, next week, we are going to be staying in social marketing, and we're going to be talking about social video. And I'm going to be talking about Facebook video. We've been doing a lot actually through the latter half of last year, and we were experimenting with all different sorts of Facebook video, delivering our content, the type of content that we like to deliver on YouTube, but bringing that brand into Facebook and figuring out the kind of the secret sauce to Facebook video. And I think we figured out one flavor. It's not all the flavors. So next week, we're going to be talking about posting video to Facebook, the type of video, designing that video, how you engage with that video. But we're going to be talking about recorded video, not Facebook Live. So if you're interested in, the live portion of Facebook, which is huge, we're not really going to be concentrating on that. We'll pay lip service to it. We'll do a little bit on it, but we're going to be talking about pre-recording video, the style, that sort of stuff that we do on our YouTube channel, and how you can then inject that into the Facebook feed, and how your audience is going to react to your content, and how you can leverage your content, how you design the content for Facebook. We're going to be covering that next week on Webinar Wednesday. So April, if you can plug the link in. Now, there's going to be 2 opt-ins on that page. One's going to be still for this week's webinar. Just scroll down the page and you'll get to the Webinar Wednesday link for next week for you to register for that. Make sure you get in early. Seats are not limited, but make sure you get in early. Next, I wanted to talk about, I'm hoping that everybody's enjoying. I was watching the numbers and everybody stayed on again. We don't think we lost anybody through the first half hour or so of this webinar. So if you're loving Webinar Wednesdays and you want to keep them going, we appreciate that big time. And let me tell you, one of the big reasons we can do Webinar Wednesday is we've got such wonderful support from our community at Patreon. We just passed our 500th our supporter on Patreon, which is phenomenal. But we can certainly use more, because every penny that you folks give us at Patreon, which is like a crowdfunding site, but for content creators, every penny goes to our team. It goes to support the entire dottotech team, which allows us to keep creating this content. So Patreon really makes Webinar Wednesdays possible. And it's very much a sense of community. The benefits that you get as a result of signing up at Patreon, and I'll get April to drop the link in, is we ask for $10 a month from people. $10 a month is our perk level, and and for that you get access to our flagship course, one of our courses, Evernote Made Easy, which will make you more productive, guaranteed. That's probably the most popular course that we've developed here at dottotech. So you get free access to that. We send that to you as soon as you sign up as a Patreon member. You also get free access to the Webinar Wednesday archive. So this is the 6th Webinar Wednesday, and we'll be doing it almost every week. I've got a little bit of travel coming up, so there's the odd week we won't be doing a training webinar like this, but for the most part, we'll probably have about 45 in the can by the end of the year. You get access to all of these tutorials that you can go back to at any point as a patron. You also get half off on all of our premium courses. The next one coming up next month is going to be on delivering webinars. We're going to be doing a a course on delivering webinars. We'll also be doing a premium course this year on developing online courses. And at the end of the year, we'll be doing another one of our screencasting courses, which have been ever so popular. And occasionally we do little mini courses, and there we charge $40 and patrons get them for $10 each. So that's the perks to being a patron. We thank you for your support. It's really been, as I say, it's a little bit humbling, the fact that we've gotten such terrific support from the community. And believe me, we take it very, very seriously. Of the button on this, Webinar Jam, they've got the end call button right next to the turn screen sharing off. It's just really bad design. I wonder how many webinar presenters have accidentally ended their webinar when they've stopped screen sharing. Almost happened to me again, but good. So anyway, so that's it. So the next week, Facebook video. All right. So are we ready? I'm gonna start broadcasting now. Shall we start broadcasting on Facebook, Jen?
Let's go.
And then answer questions.
Awesome.
Okay. So theoretically, it should be going up to the dottotech page on Facebook now. So you let me know if it's working.
All right.
I've done my part.
No pressure.
No pressure. Okay, let's jump into questions. I know we got a lot of them. So April, let's go through them. And I moved a couple of comments over there because the things that I wanted to comment on, so they might not look like a question, but it was something that I wanted to talk about. Theoretically.
Okay.
Oh, it sounds like it's working. Was that you, Jen? Okay. She's putting in her headset now. Okay, go ahead, April.
All right. So our friend Kat is asking, can you share advice for outsourcing some video editing and production, please?
Now, that's kind of off topic today, but let's actually park that question to the very end of the webinar because I want to answer all the WordPress stuff. But I will talk to you a little bit about outsourcing video, and that's certainly something that we can talk a lot about next week. But let's move that to the end of the queue.
Okay, George is asking, any info on hacking risks for self-hosted sites? I have both WordPress.com and self-hosted. And
that's good. Yeah, the reason that I put that up is I did not mention my security plugins because you have to make sure you have good security plugins and they are constantly up to date, because one thing that will happen with you on WordPress is people will constantly be trying to hack in, and they'll be trying to get into your WordPress site for all sorts of reasons. It's kind of just now what happens in the online world. So making sure that you have appropriate security plugins. And that's an area that I actually defer to my web guy. And I should know the name. Let me just check the name. What's the name of my security plugin? I'm just going into my plugins while we're talking here. Let me go into my plugins. Sorry. Where are they? I've got to find it here. Which is the security plugin? Oh, there it is. Security. What is it called? I'm just opening it. I don't even know the name of it because he always updates it. He jumps in and iTheme Security is what we use. iTheme Security is what we use. And I don't recommend it because I don't know if it's good or bad. It's what my web guy puts in, and it's his job to make sure that we stay safe. And we have stayed safe. But pay attention to that.
You also use LastPass to create your passwords too, don't you?
We've got a very robust password management system and that sort of stuff. So we've got very cryptic passwords and all of that sort of stuff. And we've got, the site shuts down if too many login attempts, like that user gets shut down and all of those sorts of things. But they still try. And occasionally you'll notice, like if you're sent a log of all of the people trying to get into your site, it happens every day. It literally happens every day. So people try to hack in. It's that prevalent. All right, next question.
All right, our friend Wood is asking.
Sorry, is it feeding through, Jen?
It is. We are live.
Live. Hello, everybody on Facebook Live. We're there finally.
All right. Wood is asking. I do voiceover and I write short stories. Can you suggest a theme for me to start with?
That's a great question, and depending if you want. I know that Larry and a few others have been mentioning some different frameworks that people can purchase. I think you have to just do a little bit of research and see ones that you like and has the functionality that you want. I went for, and I'll tell you the decision-making process that I went through to choose mine, because I looked at a variety of different theme packages, and I ended up choosing a package from Themify. But there's a couple of reasons that might not be that important to you. First of all, I didn't know what I was going to be doing regarding e-commerce on my site. It was before I started my Infusionsoft installation, which is where we do most of our e-commerce. And Themify is related to Shopify. And so I thought, best shopping kind of service on the planet, I'm going to get their theme in case I want that integration later on down the pipe. And I might be a little bit biased saying Best on the Planet because they're a good Canadian company and I'm a good Canadian kid. So it was an easy decision for me. And they had some themes. They didn't overwhelm me with too many themes. And when I looked at their roster of themes, I saw one that I said, I can make that one work for me, because they kind of put them into different families. So if you're looking for one that's based on books and authors, every one of the sites will have every one of the theme companies will have those recommendations. So look for the one that's in your price range, that they'll show you a little bit what their interface, because they've all got their own graphical interface for creating pages and posts, and see one that you're comfortable with. And then check the reviews. Make sure there's not a lot of complaints. A good place to go to check on how well a company is doing is visit their Facebook user page and see what ratio of complaints versus compliments versus support, how quickly questions are answered. That gives you a real good feel for how quickly how a company treats their community.
Mm-hmm. Jordan is asking, can we get a list of all of the plugins?
Yes.
All right. Awesome.
There's an email that's going out as soon as we're done today that I've got a list of all of the plugins. So yes.
Okay. So Don is asking, I'm looking to add video, something I wasn't going to do before. How do I update my subscription on your newsletter? Updating your profile. Don, you're just going to send an email to info@dottotech as a reminder, and we'll make sure you get in that sequence. No problem.
Got it. Okay, now I know what he was talking about. I was going, What we do is, just so people know, our newsletter list is getting rather large, so we're trying to segment people into areas of interest. And people that are just interested in productivity, we don't want to send them social marketing stuff. So we're trying to segment like crazy. And I've thrust that upon poor April, and it's a work in progress. So he wants to make sure he's on both lists.
But yes. How much traffic do you recommend before launching social proof on a new beginning site?
Okay, now what they're talking about there is incorporating social proof. When I showed you my social warfare plugin, what it does is it tells you how many likes and how many comments there are, or how many social shares there are within the different social platforms. So if you open a post that's been up for several weeks and you look at how many social shares, and it's got 2 Facebook likes and 1 share on LinkedIn, you're kind of, social proof is a burden in that case, because we are lemmings and we think that immediately our thoughts go, this content cannot be valuable because not very many people have shared it. Whereas if you see lots of shares, you think, oh, this must be very valuable because many people have shared it. That is the concept of social proof. And it's a powerful force in social media marketers' lives. So the question is, at what number should you start to share that number? Should you let people know just how popular or not popular you are? And so it's really a sense of your own confidence that you have. We, to a certain extent, manufacture social proof, because when we launch any one of our videos, we go through a whole series, which we cover in our YouTube launch sequence. But we go through a series of activities to encourage people and make sure that there's some sharing and some energy behind all of our content as it goes and is shared in the first case. So I don't think we have a tremendous amount of social proof. Most of our posts have 40 or 50 shares and that sort of stuff. And I'm comfortable with that kind of in our own skin. So you have to determine what you're comfortable with as far as sharing it. If you don't have the icons there, then you aren't encouraging people to share right from your post. So you lose a little bit of traction at that point. But I would say that, I would always share. And just I would kind of, trust that we're going to grow. If you're producing good content, let that carry the day. I'm not sure that's the best strategic advice, but that's the way I would do it, and not lose too much sleep over it. And if it's really bad, get your friends to share
it. Well, that's why an email list is good, right? Because you can send it out and ask your list to share it.
When we were starting, in the first year that I was doing this, I would always share my own post on Facebook. I needed at least 1 share. So I needed that.
Too. What are you talking about?
Oh, I did it. No question.
He pays us to share his stuff.
You do.
I'm
you
just
share
kidding.
my stuff? I pay you to like it.
I don't even know. I'm kidding.
You should be sharing it.
I do share it. I do.
Good. You sound defensive.
Me?
I don't have the chat going. I realized there. I haven't seen what people are saying. Okay, good. All right.
All right. So can you discuss the WordPress theme you use and why you chose it over thousands of other themes? Andre is asking.
Okay, well, I went through a little bit of that and deciding what company I wanted. And fortunately, Themify only has maybe 24 themes that cover their entire range. And it was the one that was most flexible, and it really responded well in responsive design. Like when I looked at it on the smartphone, it really resolved well for the type of structure that we were looking for. And I wanted a certain kind of an extra level of elegance to the site this time. And I really like something called parallax, which is where you have a background image and then the foreground, all of the active layer kind of slides over the front of it. And it had a very nice, easy to implement theme that was a parallax design. And when I tested it out and looked at their sample, it really resolved well on the smartphone. And so that was why I chose that one. It was flexible. It had the features, the main features I wanted, and it was very mobile friendly. If you aren't getting a site which is responsive, if you're designing a site which is not responsive, you're cutting off half of your market right away. It's got to resolve well on the phone.
Allison's asking, how do you add video to your WordPress site without it slowing down, bogging down?
Well, the video should not slow down your site in any way. What slows down your site is having big graphics, not compressing your graphics, and some other bad practices. Mm-hmm. But video, because it's just an embed code, so the video is not actually running from our site, but it's running from YouTube. So if you use YouTube, Vimeo, Wistia, if you use any of these video hosting services, you just take an embed code, you put it in your site, and then it basically creates kind of a tunnel between your site and the video hosting service. So that will not slow down your site in any way, shape, or form.
All right. Andrew is asking, he was recalling, you said something about using Optimized Press. Is Optimized Monster better for your pop-ups?
Yeah. Okay. So with our site, I originally built our site. Now, this is going to get a little bit geeky, but I originally built our site with the Themify theme for all of our blog and vlog content. And then for all of our landing pages and opt-in pages, I purchased a product called Optimized Press, which does a great job of creating landing pages. And it'll actually create a full membership site if you want. It's about a $200 a year product, comes from England, and it's a competitor for Lead Pages and some other services to opt in. And since we do so many webinars and things like that, that's really important to me. But it'll install on your site as either a theme or as a plugin. Optimized Press is flexible that way. So we actually had a theme running and then Optimized Press plugin sitting over top of it. And it was a little bit cumbersome. Our site was pretty slow as a result of having these kind of two infrastructures running at the same time. Mm-hmm. So what we did was we parsed out and we left all of our blog type content on the main dottotech site. And then I created a subdomain called members.dottotech.com where I host all of our landing sales pages, anything that's like that. And I installed Optimized Press as a theme on that site. So it's running on that site. So that's the way that I designed it. It would be very similar to just having your normal WordPress theme and then paying for a service like Lead Pages, that where you host all of your landing pages and your funnel traffic and all of that sort of stuff. But we did that ourselves mainly because I'm cheap and I like Optimized Press. It works quite well. It designs nice pages and it integrates really nicely with Infusionsoft. So we have a nice linkage going through. So our systems all work. So that's how I've designed it. It's very different than Opt-in Monster. Opt-in Monster is just that pop-up thing that pops and gets people to opt in on your pages and creates that sort of a connection. So that's intrusive. Whereas the Optimized Press is pages that you're going to. So if you go to buy a product from us, when you go to register for this next webinar, that's not on dottotech.com. That's on members.dottotech.com. And that is an Optimized Press page that you see there.
Awesome.
And there's a link for that. And I'm an affiliate for them. I want to make some money from it, so buy it. If you
For a second, I was worried you were going to mention Wisp.
Sorry?
For a second, I thought you were going to mention Wisp as connecting with Wisp. I'm just kidding.
We aren't. That's a plugin which will never be mentioned again by us. Right. I'm sure it works fine, but it was a nightmare.
Yes. I will keep my mouth closed about it. Gavin is asking, did you ever look into other platforms like Adobe Muse?
Not that one. I know. One of my lights just burned out. No, I never looked into that one. I did look into some other kind of frameworks I can't remember the name, but I know there was a few being mentioned earlier. But this, and I can't say that I made it's like buying your CRM. Once you've decided on a theme and kind of gone down the road and started to build your website, it's up to you to make it work. It's no good having regrets saying, "Oh, I should have gone with those guys," or "I should have gone with those guys." There's lots of good systems out there, but if you learn your system, if you learn the tools, and you dive in and really master what's happening within your website, within your web environment, it's going to work for you. So then you should have no regrets. You're going to make it work. It's like a relationship. You make it work. You don't just worry about the one that you let go before.
All right. Ken is asking.
So profound.
All of these themes and add-ins sound expensive. What's your total annual outlay on your website?
I don't know. I don't think it's that expensive. I think we spend about $100 a year for Themify. My hosting service is whatever the hosting service costs. That can cost anywhere from $30 to $150 a month, depending on how much bandwidth and how much traffic you have at your site. And then for Optimized Press, it's another couple of $100 for opt-in Monster, it's $50 or $60. Most of the other ones I use are free, so probably under $1,000 a year, which is pretty cheap for having access 24/7 online for people to have access to us.
All right, Jen, do you have any questions going on over there?
I do. I have one.
Yay!
Our first Facebook Live question.
Yes.
I hope they're still on, because people stay on Facebook Live for about a nanosecond. It's like, whoop, and then they're gone.
Well, we've got a total of 13 viewers. I think that's our high. We've gone down to about 9. Oh, we just hit 14. So we go down to about 9, and then we kind of creep back up.
Don't talk about them. They're shy.
I'm sorry. Don't be shy, guys. We are nice and welcoming here. So Deborah, she's actually in the webinar as well. But it seems to be people are jumping over for both. So it's great. But Deborah is saying she's just started with e-commerce and affiliate marketing. She knows that she's going to need to use WordPress soon and is confident that this webinar is going to give her an idea how to best use it. But she's asking, do I need to start out with any plugins or with the plugins? Are they easy to integrate and use? She's just not sure what to ask yet because she hasn't jumped in, but those are kind of her first precursor questions.
Well, I think that, we're going to be sending out a link to a site called WP Beginner in the follow-up email, which is like a tutorial on setting up your first WordPress site. I would go through that content. I would move a little bit patiently and not rush into my website design. I would look at what's out there, and I would. It's not something that I would rush into. I have no problem with you going out and grabbing your domain name and doing those sorts of things. And the nice thing about WordPress as well, though, is it's a database structure more than in other words, once you create some content in WordPress, you can change themes and that content stays the same. So it's a big process, but it's not like building a whole new site from scratch when you decide to change the look. And as a matter of fact, with WordPress, you can just get your ISP to install straight up WordPress, and there's all sorts of free themes that you can play with right at the beginning. So when you put in blog information and you put in content information, it'll all be there, and it'll resolve when you add when you modify your theme sitting over top of it later on. So having said that, I would start, if you want to do it all yourself, I would start with spending some research and spending some time at WP Beginner, reading through the tutorials, maybe setting up a site that's not public, but just playing with it yourself. That's what I did, is I set up WordPress, I set up a site, I played with it, I fooled around, I imported some content, I looked at what the free themes were doing, I got an idea of the page and post structure and the nomenclature and how categories worked. And once I started to understand the infrastructure of it, then I was able to start making better decisions on how I was going to implement my actual execution. I hope that made sense. And I see that you're putting in just a straight up optimized press link. This is the link that will make me money if you go to and you buy optimized press.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not the one that you're sharing, April.
I'm sorry.
Stevie needs a haircut.
Sorry.
Beard trim.
Hey, I noticed that you had one. That was good.
Yes, I did. I trimmed. WP Engine. Yeah, Ava mentions WP Engine. It's a great hosting site. Because they know WordPress. They're designed and optimized for WordPress as far as hosting, but it is not cheap. It's one that we've looked at. I'm tempted to move our site there. We've been off and on that bandwagon a few times.
Deborah said, thank you. That was a very helpful answer.
Really? Good. Well, that's nice.
All right. Greg is asking, can your main website have a particular theme and a subdomain have a different theme?
Sure. I don't see why not. I mean, dividing your content amongst your site is really just how you design your business. It's almost like the question of, should I have 2 YouTube channels? If one of them's on cooking and the other one is on dog grooming, yeah, have 2 different channels because they're kind of mutually exclusive things. So yeah, you'll just decide on your mix of content whether or not you should have multiple sites or not.
Okay. Karen is asking, can you test themes for your own WordPress site without purchasing them?
I doubt it.
Yeah. I
Pretty
think
sure not.
Give you a preview just of what it looks like in mobile, and yeah. All right.
Jim's asking if we're familiar with CoSchedule, I see. CoSchedule is a content management system that allows you to kind of pre-plan all of your posts, etc. And it's a pretty good service. There are a few other services out there. CoSchedule is one of the popular ones. We looked at it and evaluated it, decided not to use it in our own business because we just basically use Asana to do the same thing. So we do all of our content map and content planning using Asana, which we will probably be doing a webinar on at some point in the future, is that productivity side. Because Asana has really allowed us to do that kind of content planning. That's allowing us to have a much more aggressive content management or content distribution schedule.
All right. Andre wanted to mention
He says my beard is epic. I like Andre.
No, he was talking about your spelling. He was saying your spelling. He loves your spelling.
Which spelling?
Well,
I'm not sensitive about that. I went to Catholic boys' school. I went to Our Lady of the Bleeding Knuckles, and I never really learned proper spelling. It's a problem for me.
It's a work in progress. You're doing much better.
Grammarly has made great improvements.
Grammarly helps.
Yes.
And having a team helps because we don't rush stuff out as much. We used to rush content out a lot.
Yeah.
Joanna's asking, how many plugins do you recommend before you break your site?
My web guy would tell me as few as possible. He would like me to have no plugins if I could possibly get away with no plugins, except for security plugins and CAPTCHA code plugins to get into the website initially. But yes, you will. Every plugin you add gives you an extra degree of potential something breaking because WordPress is constantly being updated. The security aspects of WordPress dictate that it's constantly being modified, it's constantly being updated, it's constantly being built as a more secure environment. And so each one of those plugins has a chance of breaking every time WordPress updates. So you've always got those issues. Plus there's just more overhead that the servers have to process the more plugins you have. Plus you add more GAC to your site the more plugins you have. So there's always the potential, the more that you have, just the more chance that you're going to have some sort of failure down the road.
Yes. And Dave actually mentioned he has 35 and no problems. So just as an FYI.
Do not tell my Dave that because he would smack me physically hard. He would hit me right there in the back of the head.
Yeah. And so I'm just going to ask this. So you don't have it on set to automatically update those plugins because that can be a nightmare for your site. I feel like that's happened to me. I don't know. Do you have it on automatic update?
No, I do them. No, but but one of us is in the site every day, and I see when there's notifications of new plugins, and then I update them, I do them all. Yeah.
All right. Laura's asking, what do you think of Squarespace? I think
Squarespace is a terrific service. I know that a lot of people build their site on it. It's got, it's a little more, it's going to be less flexible than WordPress because it's not as extensible. You have to wait for them to release functionality. You can't use outside functionality, but it's a very comfortable environment to work in and very secure.
Carmen is wondering why someone would pay $50 a month for their website with WordPress. What are the differences or benefits that they could come by paying monthly?
I think is she talking about using the WordPress, kind of the WordPress blogging service where it's WordPress hosting your site for you?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. I've never used that, and so I don't really understand all of the values of it. So I'm really not the best person to ask for that. We've always been self-hosted from the beginning, so maybe somebody else can comment on that. I'm not positive about that. But I noticed that we're at 11 o'clock, so I'm just going to put a button on it. We will answer more questions. But anybody who has to go now, a reminder: in about an hour from now, there will be an email sent out with with the replay link, which is available for how long? 48 hours. And it has also all of the resources that we've talked about during the webinar. We'll be adding a few more once we're done here, but there's a link to a page with all of that content on it. Next week, we are talking Facebook video. So sign up for that. Maybe we can drop that link in again. So sign up for our Facebook video tutorial next week. And on behalf of both Jen and I, if you got to go now, till next time, have fun storming a castle. And we'll stay on now and answer questions as long as the questions are going to. What's that?
I said I knew it. Have fun storming.
You wanted me to let you say it?
I was hoping you were going to call on me.
No, because you blew it last week.
I know. You're going to call on me when I'm not ready.
You let the side down with you not knowing our rallying cry.
Thank you, Deborah. Deborah on Facebook is jumping off. She says she enjoyed the webinar and learned a lot.
Awesome sauce.
Dawn is asking if they will ever see Dotto TV show again. With that,
we're gonna have to go back in the archive.
I will never. I don't think I'll ever make another TV show, but we've got a treat coming down the pipe for everybody in the community. Jen discovered a show of ours from 1995. Which is kind of freaking hilarious.
You have to share it, Jen.
Have you not seen it yet, April? I'll send you the link.
And it'll do good to search for it because it's very well hidden. But when it's, I sent it to Viveka von Rosen, and she said that she laughed so hard that stuff came out her nose. So
were you singing and dancing too? Was it like a variety show?
I'm not singing in this show per se, but the opening credits are kind of epic.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Oh, and the jokes. The jokes are just as bad.
The corny. Yeah, they were totally corny. It's watching that show just from 1995 was one of the first years that we did TV. Watching that show and then watching the credits, I felt like going through your high school reunion, your high school yearbook. I felt like I was kind of reading through the yearbook, just all of the old people. A lot of them have passed, sadly. The guy that co-wrote it with me just died this past winter. It was just as a memorial, just in early January. So it's a little bit. 1995. That's a long time ago to be talking about technology. We were talking about. I was showing people how to install modems in the show. Let's put it that way.
He was on Netscape.
Yes, we were using Netscape, and I was showing other tools like Eudora and Fetch. But let's continue to talk about websites because we don't want to. We want to stay on topic.
Oh.
Is there any other questions, or have we exhausted them? You've got to turn your mic back on, April. It turned off when you had to exit the room.
Okay. Who do you host your site with?
Canada Hosting. If you find a good host, stay with them. I think it's a case of you really get what you pay for with hosting.
Joanne's asking, is there a way to track your current content from previous years? I want to update the old posts, but want a way to track it.
Well, that's Google Analytics will track all of your content. That's what you have to set up Google Analytics. You have to set it up on your site so that you can track. Now, it's something that I'm not an expert on, but it's Google Analytics tells you about how long they're on your page, what they do on your page. That's essential.
I think the question is more around how do you update. She wants to update old posts. So how would you find them to be able to? Like, is there a sorting system within WordPress to go back to your old content?
Yeah, there's search. You can search, and you use categories to define subjects of posts. So there's a variety of different ways you can go through it. And within the WordPress backend, you can see all of your old posts. You've got a roster of all of your old posts there. So yeah, you can go in and refresh stuff for sure. Thanks, David.
I have heard that in some instances your content is no longer yours. Is this true, and which systems do you use?
I don't. Terms of service for different providers are going to vary, so I don't know where that would come from. I mean, we hear those rumors about Facebook and other places and all that sort of stuff. So check your terms of service. I can't speak directly to that. What was the second part of that question?
I just deleted it. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Rick's
sure. Asking about incorporating Thinkific and WordPress. Completely separate. Thinkific does all of the hosting for everything for us for all of our courses. Mm-hmm. So Thinkific is almost a replacement for WordPress for all of our course structure. You can create a membership site in your own website. You can do it with Optimized Press. You can do it with Wishlist Member. There's a whole variety of products where you can mimic what Thinkific does. but that's a nightmare compared to having somebody that handles it all for you, like Thinkific. The product that April was alluding to that we were talking about was a nightmare early on, was to design that sort of an environment for us, and it was very difficult.
Our friend Clint is asking if you can give a rough estimate for women hours spent managing your site monthly.
Oh, no. It depends on how much content and how fresh the content is. I mean, we post 4 times a week, new videos. And I mean, but defining, the time spent developing the post versus the writing of the content versus the post, we probably spend 10 to 12 hours in site maintenance and kind of administration per week. But a lot of that is taking content that's written and been approved and copying it into a post and then formatting it and that sort of stuff.
All right, great. Is there a place to learn about secondary pages?
WP Beginner. That's they've got everything.
Okay. And Anna's asking, what site builder do you use? Which would be
well, that's the Themify theme that we use has a site builder. It's got its own environment that allows us to build a site, and so does Optimize Press. They've all got their own user interface that allows you to create your pages and posts.
All right, great. Judy is asking, her website master is building her site on Joomla. What are your thoughts on Joomla?
I don't have a lot because I've never used it, but it's another content management system similar to Drupal and WordPress. As long as you're comfortable that there's somebody that you're going to be able to rely on in the future. The problem whenever you have a site designed by somebody else is you don't want to be held hostage to that one firm if they've built a site in such a way that nobody else can administer it and nobody else can make changes. If they go out of business, if you decide to fire them, then you still need to have access to your site. So be very careful when you're hiring somebody to make sure that you have access to every part of the site. None of it's hosted on their services. You've all got that. It's all yours. It's almost, you're almost in servitude, I think, sometimes with some website creators, because they'll create it in a proprietary system that only they can maintain, or only they know what they've done, and then you're trapped with them. Especially if their service deteriorates, it could be really difficult. And we've all heard horror stories in that space.
Greg is asking, if a website has been created with an HTTP, can it easily be changed to HTTPS, or is it necessary to start all over again?
Well, it wouldn't be necessary to start all over again, I can't imagine, but that would be a question for somebody a little more technical than me.
All right.
I bet Larry's going to answer that. He already has. There's lots of hoops to go through, but it's possible.
And
thank you, Larry. I love Larry.
Larry's awesome. He's been helping out, which I appreciate it. So we're going back to some off kind of topic questions. Joanne was asking, can people delete the Facebook tracking pixel? So let's see.
I think you can block it probably, as you know. You can. There's ways to block whether or not it loads. If you're in an incognito mode, for example, I think it would do that. But I'm not too sure what I'm not too sure all of the aspects of it.
All right. And so Kat was asking, you recommend adding the Facebook tracking pixel even before planning to do paid Facebook ads?
Yes, I do. I love that question. Yes. Please do it. Because Facebook tracking pixel will track 30 and 90 days of traffic to your site. So you don't know what you're going to be doing in 3 months, but you want to know the people that have visited your site and are interested in you, that you might want to talk to them. So that's why you do it.
All right, and I'm going to go back to the earlier question that you said save towards the end here. Can you share advice for outsourcing some video editing and production, please? I do a weekly video interview show, plus video demos and training, but struggling with coordinating VA help that doesn't take me time, then just handling production, scheduling, and posting myself. Yeah,
we went through that big time over the last 6 months, because as we built out the team for dottotech, as we were going to be building a much more aggressive content schedule. So what I ended up doing was I found a designer who had video experience. And because I had video experience as well, I was able to talk to them. We redesigned the format. I was looking to refresh the format of my videos. And then we were going to hire another video editor. So I just looked for local to our local technology school and found some local editors that I ended up talking to, and we were just going to train them on the systems. Now, we didn't end up working out for us because the person that we originally hired, her workload got too large. And my original designer said, well, you know what? We've designed such a good and efficient system. I can handle it now. So it happenstance worked out that I was able to, that Liz became kind of a permanent part of the team now, doing the editing as well as the design work for us. I wouldn't recommend going to a site like Fiverr or anything like that. Odesk is it's not called Odesk. It's called Upwork now. It's a place that you can go to look. But if I was really looking for video editing, I would look at my local environment if I'm in a larger city, and I would try and find somebody from whatever the technical broadcast school is in your area. Most, there's institutes of technology pretty much everywhere where they train people for the broadcast industry. And I would look for an editor in that space there, and I would bring them along and teach them your system. But find somebody that you can rely on that's going to be with you for a while, because it's not something that's going to happen overnight. The handoff, if you've been doing it yourself, for most entrepreneurs, handing off that responsibility to somebody else is very difficult, as both Jen and April can attest to, as we've grown our business here. Me handing off responsibility to others is what probably held us up more than anything else. So it takes time. So you've got to trust the person, and you've got to go through a process. So you start with, kind of having them do the last stage, or you do them a demo file, a project that they work through till they get your format down. But it will take time. I would look locally for video editors. That's one thing that I would encourage you to do.
Jim's asking, how do you install the Facebook Pixel?
It's really easy. All of the themes have instructions on how to do it now. It just has to be installed in the header or footer. So you create it at Facebook in the ads manager. There's lots of free courses that people give. We'll be doing a tutorial on Facebook ads at some point in the next 6 weeks or 8 weeks. And then you just take that content and most of the themes, it'll all be framed differently, but you just do a search on adding the Facebook Pixel. And there's a cool tool that we use called Facebook Pixel Helper, which installs in your browser, and it tells you if the pixel's firing on your page. And when you visit any page, it tells you exactly what pixels are firing. Because the biggest thing for people is they install the pixel, and there's no way to know. You look at the page, you go, I don't know if it's working. And you can't tell on Facebook by looking and seeing, did it properly track me? But the Pixel Helper will tell if it's properly firing. Excuse me.
All right. Andre just said, I just read an article about someone who dropped using MailChimp from his WordPress site because of a variety of support issues. What do you think of MailChimp?
That's more a question for April, who's worked with it more than me. I have always liked it. April's got has a few reservations. Any mail list manager there's no perfect one.
Absolutely.
Like men. We all have our flaws.
We're all a work in progress.
That's right.
Do you find security an issue with WordPress? I think you covered that earlier, but maybe
it's something that we're always paying attention to. And I'm always a little afeared. I'm always a little bit, when you see the amount of people that are constantly hacking, trying to hack your site, trying to get in, you are under constant barrage. So you have to make sure security is in place. And that's one of the reasons that we're constantly updating WordPress as well. You always run the updates. You always run the updates because they are so often security related.
Richard is asking, Optimize Press can help build a membership site? ?
Yeah, it can. I didn't like it as a membership site. If you're going to be doing courses, I really encourage you to look at Thinkific. I can't say enough about how much of a change that's made in our business. Because the problem with all of the membership sites, and it's not that Optimize Press is a poor one, it's just that they are all maintenance intensive, and you end up, if you have a relatively small, we're saying under a couple thousand people in it, you spend more time administering the people, giving them their passwords back, dealing with little issues, than you spend time supporting the content that the membership's about. That's my experience with it. So with Thinkific, that went away, and there are other services like Thinkific that if you want to explore, Teachable, Kajabi. There are other services that kind of host that membership side for you. I really encourage you to look at those instead.
Judy is asking, is it better to go with a mastermind course for support or a one-on-one computer specialist who's in the beginning of doing webinar online courses?
I lost you. You froze partway through.
Okay, sorry. So basically, Judy's asking if it's better to go with a mastermind course for support or one-on-one.
For support or one-on-one computer specialist.
Yeah.
Who is at the beginning of doing webinar and online courses.
Am I frozen?
No,
I don't know.
He's just taking over.
I guess it depends what sort of a mastermind you have an opportunity to join. If you've got a group of people that really get you and and they have the experience and the expertise to help guide you in the right direction, masterminds can be really productive. But also, so it's kind of a how long is a piece of rope or type question. It depends on your own environment and how much you know going in. I think that for things like developing online courses, there's a lot of good trainings out there. There's a lot of good tutorials out there. We're going to have one in a couple of months.
Yeah, I was going to say you're launching your course too.
Yeah, we've got a nice little one. If you're just doing your first online course, it's called the Anatomy. Well, no, it's called I think creating your first online course. It's available. It's available at our Thinkific site, and it's a nice overview to get people started.
All right. Daryl's asking if WordPress is such a target for hackers, should we be looking for something more secure?
Everything's a target for hackers. It doesn't matter. No, it's every website out there is a target.
All right. Mark was asking, I've never stormed the castle. Is it fun?
Obviously, or we wouldn't mention it all the time.
Let's see. Paul is asking, iThemeSync is wonderful if you have multiple sites. So he's just making a comment. So okay. iThemeSync is wonderful. And we're getting down to the end here. So
they're asking for the link for the Thinkific course? I will.
I'll put that in here.
Okay.
And can you elaborate a little bit more on Yoast as a SEO plugin?
What it does is it looks at how good a job you're doing of covering off the things that Google looks for, and then reminds you of things that you should be filling in. So it doesn't actually do it for you, but it says, Steve, you got to do this. Steve, you should be putting in these tags. Steve, you need a better description here. Steve, there's not enough words here. So it does a good job of that, and then making sure that it's properly all positioned in a place that Google can find it.
What do you know about WordFence?
Nothing. Sorry.
And let's see.
Was that too glib? Was that too? I've never heard of
that at all.
No, I think it's fine. My website master has been. Oh, we already did that one. Sorry. I think we're kind of.
Was there only one question from Facebook Live?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jen, you're letting us down, Jen.
But we have some great viewers, though. I mean, we've got some views on over here, Steve. They're just not engaging yet. They're warming up.
It'll take us time.
Exactly.
I think that we've covered everyone. I went through the chat.
Good. It's all right. 20 minutes. We always seem to be about 20 minutes over. Seems to be we're getting into a rhythm. So, folks, thanks so much. We have thoroughly enjoyed our time with you today. Those of you who are new Patreon supporters, I'm sure there's some, we welcome you aboard. Those of you who are existing Patreon supporters, thanks for making this possible. We hope you found lots of value today. We will see you next week when we're going to be talking about Facebook video. It's going to be a good one. We've learned a lot about Facebook video and some surprising truths about the world of Facebook video. So until next time, Jen, you can do it today.
Have fun storming the castle.
See you guys next time.